Hello, welcome to the 201st episode of this podcast called The Dictionary. I am your host, Spencer, and here we go. I'm going to read you some words and some other words. First, for this episode is antecessor, antecessor. I think I pronounced that correctly, give or take. It's a noun from the 14th century, one that goes before. Synonym is predecessor. The etymology says it is from the Latin antecessor, and there's more at the word ancestor. Next we have antechamber. All one word, it's a noun from 1655, and we have the synonym anteroom. And I've seen that word come up a couple of times in either examples or synonyms, anteroom. So another word is just antechamber. Next we have antechapel. All one word, it's a noun from 1703, a vestibule or anteroom to a chapel or church. I'm still not 100% sure on why they've put the prefix ante on these. Let's look back at the ante prefix from the previous episode. Let's see. The 1B definition says anterior or forward, and the example was anteroom. So now we can use that information to sort of figure out what an anteroom is, and in this case specifically antechapel, also antechamber. That was another one that used this synonym anteroom. So it's really just a room in a larger structure that's basically in the front of it. That's it. Next we have antedate. First form, it's a noun from the 15th century. And this was actually the example word for the 1A definition of the prefix ante. And just a reminder to myself and to you, that definition said prior or earlier. So let's get to the first form of antedate. It is a date assigned to an event or document earlier than the actual date of the event or document. Now we have the second form of antedate. It's a transitive verb from 1572. 1A, to date as of a time prior to that of execution. 1B, to assign to a date prior to that of actual occurrence. 2 is archaic, it's the synonym anticipate. 3, to proceed in time. Next we have antediluvian, antediluvian. It's an adjective from 1646. 1, of or relating to the period before the flood described in the Bible. 2a, made, evolved, or developed a long time ago, as in an antediluvian automobile. 2b, extremely primitive or outmoded, as in an antediluvian prejudice. And boy, do we have a lot of those. Antediluvian is also a noun, and the etymology says it is combining the ante prefix plus the Latin word diluvium, which means flood, and there's more at the word deluge, D-E-L-U-G-E. Next we have antefix, A-N-T-E-F-I-X. It's a noun from 1832, an ornament at the eaves of a classical building concealing the ends of the joint tiles of the roof. It is from the Latin antefixum, which is the neutral of antefixus, which is from the verb antefigere, which means to fasten before, and that is made by combining ante plus figere, which means to fasten, and there's more at the word fix. Next, we have the word antelope. It's a noun from the 15th century. 1a, any of various ruminant deer-like mammals, chiefly of Africa and Southwest Asia, that have a slender, lean build and usually horns directed upward and backward. 1b is just the synonym pronghorn, P-R-O-N-G-H-O-R-N. 2, leather from antelope hide. This is a Middle English word, means fabulous heraldic beast, probably from the Middle French antelope without the E at the end, which means savage animal with saw-like horns. That's from the Middle Latin anthelopus, which is from the Greek or Latin Greek anthelop or anthelops. But I love that description, fabulous heraldic beast. or savage animal with saw-like horns. Very poetic. Next, we have anti-meridian, two separate words. It's an adjective from 1563, being before noon. An abbreviation is AM. And if you are not familiar with AM, I'm a little concerned because we use that and PM all the time. But yeah, that's what it means, anti-meridian. And it's Latin, and I'm guessing it literally means just being before noon. Next, we have antemortem. All one word, it's an adjective from 1862, preceding death. So I guess you could say that we are all currently antemortem because we are alive. Next, we have antenatal. All one word, natal. It's an adjective from 1806, and we have the synonym prenatal, as in antenatal diagnosis of birth defects. So that would be before the baby is born, they are able to either diagnose birth defects or see if it's a boy or girl or things like that. Those would all be either prenatal or antenatal. And antenatally is an adverb. Next we have antenna. It's a noun from 1646. They use the plural, which is antennae with an AE at the end. One of a pair of slender, movable, segmented sensory organs on the head of insects, myriapods, and crustaceans. And it says to see the insect illustration. 2, a usually metallic device as a rod or wire for radiating or receiving radio waves. 3 is using also the plural version, a special sensitivity or receptiveness, as in his political antennae proved to be shrewder than ever. That is a quote from Eric Segal, or Siegel. Antennal, with an L at the end, is an adjective. This is a Latin word, and it means sail yard, SAILYARD. I only spell that to make sure that you are understanding what I'm saying clearly. Next we have antennule, ANTENNULE. It's a noun from 1843, a small antenna or similar appendage. Antennular is an adjective. Next we have antenuptial, ANTENUPTIAL. This is an adjective from 1696, and it has the synonym prenuptial, so very similar to our antenatal prenatal situation. And of course, nuptial means that this is related to getting married. Next we have antependium. It's a noun from 1635, a hanging for the front of an altar, pulpit, or lectern. The etymology says this is from the Latin verb pendere, ante plus pendere, which means to hang, and there's more at the word pendant. Next we have antepenult. I think that's how it's pronounced, based on the way the pronunciation guide is telling me how to emphasize the syllables. ANTEPENULT. Another form is antepenultima. This is a noun from 1552. The third syllable of a word counting from the end as Q in accumulate. Antepenultimate is also an adjective or a noun. I think it's funny that there is a word that means the third syllable from the end of a word. I've heard penultimate, and that means the second from the last. And in this case, we've added one to it, so ante, which means before that. So it's basically before the second from the last, which means it's the third from the last. And I'm curious if there's a word that describes the fourth from the last. And you can just go on and on and on. But if I ever want to sound super fancy, or if you ever want to sound super fancy, and you are describing the third from the end, specifically the third syllable from the end of a word, you should say antepenult, or antepenultima, or antepenultimate. Looks like all are fine to use. Next we have antepost. There's a hyphen. It's an adjective from 1902. It is British, and it means relating to or being wagers on a horse race made especially before the day of the race. Next and last word for this episode is anterior. It's an adjective from 1541. 1A, situated before or toward the front. 1B, situated near or toward the head or part most nearly corresponding to a head. 2. Coming before in time or development. Synonym is preceding, and anteriorly is an adverb. It is Latin. It says compared to the word ante, A-N-T-E, and there's more at the prefix ante. And my word for the episode is going to be antepenult, just because, as I said, I think it's funny that there's a word that names the third syllable from the end of the word. If you can think of an example of when this would be super helpful, send me an email. All the contact info is in the episode description. That will end the episode. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. First for this episode is 3 words: anterior, cruciate, ligament. Or it could also be cruciate. I'm not sure of that. I'll go ahead and spell them for you. A-N-T-E-R-I-O-R. Next word, C-R-U-C-I-A-T-E. Third word is L-I-G-A-M-E-N-T. It's a noun from 1974. A cruciate ligament of each knee that attaches the front of the tibia with the back of the femur and functions especially to prevent hyperextension of the knee and is subject to injury, especially by tearing, called also ACL. And apologies if it should be cruciate. I'm not sure. This is a very, very, very common injury, especially in people who play sports, soccer and football and things like that. Tearing their ACL sounds painful, and you have to get surgery, and it sucks. Luckily, I'm not very sporty, so I have never had that injury. Next, we have anterograde. A-N-T-E-R-O-G-R-A-D-E. It's an adjective from 1923. 1. Occurring or performed in the normal or forward direction of conduction or flow, as in anterograde oxonal transport. I'm not sure if oxonal is right. A-X-O-N-A-L. Oxonal. Yeah, I think that might be right. 2. Affecting memories of a period immediately following a shock or seizure, as in anterograde amnesia. Next, we have the word anteroom, which has been talked a fair amount in the last couple of episodes. It's a noun from 1762, an outer room that leads to another room, and that is often used as a waiting room. So I think I gave a whole description of what I thought an anteroom might be in the previous episode, and it sounds like I was not really correct. That's okay. I can admit when I'm wrong. Next, we have A-N-T-H. It looks like it's a prefix because there's a dash after it, and it just says see the prefix A-N-T-I. Next, we have anthelmintic, or also anthelmintic. A-N-T-H-E-L-M-I-N-T-I-C. It's an adjective from 1684, expelling or destroying parasitic worms, especially of the intestine. And anthelmintic is also a noun. This is from the Greek helminth, or helmis, which means worm. Next we have anthem. It's a noun from before the 12th century, 1a, a psalm or hymn sung antiphonally or responsively. 1b, a sacred vocal composition with words usually from the scriptures. 2, a song or hymn of praise or gladness. 3, a usually rousing popular song that typifies or is identified with a particular subculture, movement, or point of view, as in anthems of teenage angst. Anthemic is an adjective. Paring down the etymology, it looks like this is from the Greek antiphonos, which means responsive, and that is from anti plus phone, which means sound, and there's more at the word ban, B-A-N. Again, how is ban related to this? Moving on. Next we have anthemion, A-N-T-H-E-M-I-O-N. It's a noun from 1865, a flat ornament of floral form, as in relief sculpture or in painting. This is Greek. It is from the diminutive of anthemon, which means flower. That is from anthos, and there's more at the word anthology. Next we have anther, A-N-T-H-E-R. It's a noun from circa 1706, the part of a stamen that produces and contains pollen and is usually borne on a stalk. It says, see the flower illustration. Antheral is an adjective, and I think I emphasized the correct syllable in that one. I hope I did. This is Latin, means medicine made from flowers. It's from the Greek anthera, which is from the feminine of antheros, which means flowery, and that is from the word anthos. Next we have antheridium, A-N-T-H-E-R-I-D-I-U-M. It's a noun from 1839, the male reproductive organ of some cryptogamous plants. Antheridial is an adjective. What does cryptogamous mean? Not exactly sure. It sounds like it's some sort of fantasy creature plant thing. Next is antithesis, A-N-T-H-E-S-I-S. I'm guessing it's the opposite of a thesis. Let's find out. It's a noun from circa 1823, the action or period of opening of a flower. I was completely wrong. This is from the Greek anthesis, which means bloom, from anthene, which means to flower, and that's from anthos. Next we have anthill, all one word. It's a noun from the 14th century, a mound of debris thrown up by ants or termites in digging their nest. I don't think they're literally throwing it up from their mouth, although I guess it's possible. But no, it's what they literally just dig things out from the ground and they pile it up and they make a hill above the ground. All right, we will do one more for this episode. Next we have anthocyanin, A-N-T-H-O-C-Y-A-N-I-N. It's a noun from 1839. Any of various soluble glycoside pigments producing blue to red coloring in flowers and plants. This is Greek, combining anthos plus kyanos, K-Y-A-N-O-S, which means dark blue. The word of the episode is going to be anteroom, because now I finally know what it actually means. And that will be the end of this episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary, and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this episode of the dictionary. This is the last quarter of page 52, in case you are curious and keeping track. First is anthologist, A-N-T-H-O-L-O-G-I-S-T. It's a noun from 1805, a compiler of an anthology. Next we have anthologize. It's a verb, looks like a transitive verb from 1892, to compile, publish, or include in an anthology. Anthologizer is a noun. I don't know why they just didn't put anthologist, but there you have it. Next is anthology. This is a noun from 1621. 1. A collection of selected literary pieces or passages or works of art or music. 2. We have the synonym assortment, as in an anthology of threadbare cliches of bistro cuisine. That is from J. Jacobs. Anthological is an adjective. This is from the New Latin anthologia, which means collection of epigrams. It's from the Greek, which means flower gathering. Didn't actually give me a word there. It's from anthos, which means flower, plus logia or logia, which means collecting. That's from legin, L-E-G-E-I-N, which means to gather. And it's akin to the Sanskrit andha, which means herb. And there's more at the word legend. Next we have anthophilus, A-N-T-H-O-P-H-I-L-O-U-S. It's an adjective from 1883, feeding upon or living among flowers, as in anthophilous insects. Next we have anthophyllite, could also be pronounced anthophyllite, A-N-T-H-O-P-H-Y-L-L-I-T-E. I hesitated because I wasn't sure if there were two L's or one. This is a noun from circa 1828, an orthorhombic mineral of the amphibole group that is essentially a silicate of magnesium and iron and is usually lamellar or fibrous, and when fibrous is one of the less common forms of asbestos. I didn't completely understand that last part of that definition, but we'll just go with it. This is from, the Greek anthos plus phylon, Phyllon, which means leaf, and there's more at the word blade somehow. Next we have anthozoan, Anthozoan. It's a noun from 1877, any of a class of marine coelenterate, as the corals and sea anemones, having polyps with radial partitions. Coelenterates is Coelenterates. Anthozoan is an adjective, and this is from the Greek anthos plus zoion, which means animal, akin to the Greek word zoe, which means life, and there's more at the word quick. Next we have anthracene, Anthracene. It's a noun from 1863, a crystalline tricyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, C14H10, obtained from coal tar distillation. I haven't seen those chemical letters and numbers in a long time. Glad they're back. Good to see you guys. Next we have anthracite. This is a noun from 1811, a hard natural coal of high luster, differing from bituminous coal in containing little volatile matter and in burning very cleanly, called also hard coal. Anthracitic is an adjective. This is from the Greek anthrax. I've pared this down a little bit, and that means coal, Coal. Next we have anthracnose. That's an interesting word. Anthracnose. It's a noun from 1886. Any of numerous destructive plant diseases caused by imperfect fungi and characterized especially by necrotic lesions. Fungi, I guess, could also be fungi, but I think it's fungi. I always mix up that G, J sound in that word. This is from the Greek anthrax plus nosos, which means disease. Next we have anthranilate. Could also be anthranilate. Anthraniilate. It's a noun from 1845, a salt or ester of anthranilic acid. Which is our next word, anthranilic acid, two separate words. It's a noun from 1845, a crystalline acid, NH2C6H4COOH, used as an intermediate in the manufacture of dyes as indigo, pharmaceuticals, and perfumes. Next we have anthraquinone. Could also be anthraquinone. Anthraquinone. This is a noun from 1869, a yellow crystalline ketone, C14H8O2, often derived from anthracene and used especially in the manufacture of dyes. Next we have anthrax. This is a noun from 1861, an infectious disease of warm-blooded animals, as cattle and sheep, caused by a spore-forming bacterium transmissible to humans, especially by the handling of infected products as wool, and characterized by cutaneous ulcerating nodules or by often fatal lesions in the lungs, also the bacterium causing anthrax. Doesn't sound fun. This is from the Middle English anthrax, without the H, it looks like, which means carbuncle, from the Latin anthrax, from the Greek anthrax, which we learned before, which means coal, also carbuncle. I don't know what carbuncle is, I'm sorry. Next we have anthrop, Anthrop. It's an abbreviation for anthropological or also anthropology. Now we have anthrop as a prefix, could also be anthropo, with an O added at the end. It means human being, as in anthropogenic. Next we have anthropic or anthropical. It's an adjective from circa 1806 of or relating to human beings or the period of their existence on Earth, which, if you didn't know, is right now. Next and last for this episode is anthropic principle, two separate words. It's a noun from 1974, either of two principles in cosmology. A. Conditions that are observed in the universe must allow the observer to exist, called also weak anthropic principle. Or B. The universe must have properties that make inevitable the existence of intelligent life, called also strong anthropic principle. That is a very interesting idea to me. I'm going to have to sit with that a little bit longer and think about it, which means that I'm going to go ahead and pick anthropic principle as my word for the episode. Thank you very much for listening. We are going to start the next episode with the word anthropocentric. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary to you. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. I don't talk about this much, partly because I hate asking for money, but I do have a Patreon. I am still currently at 0 patrons, so maybe let's just see how long we can make that go. Just kidding. And of course, there's email and Facebook and Twitter, so feel free to contact me, ask questions, whatever you want, and feel free to give me ideas on what special things we could do on the Patreon. I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't really implemented anything because there's nobody to enjoy it. All right, let's get to the words. This will be a slightly longer episode than normal, and I will describe why, I think, at the beginning of the next episode. Yeah, let's do that. All right, the first word for this episode is anthropocentric. anthropocentric. This is an adjective from 1863. 1. Considering human beings as the most significant entity of the universe. And that is a bold statement. 2. Interpreting or regarding the world in terms of human values and experiences. Anthropocentrically is an adverb, anthropocentricity is a noun, and anthropocentrism is a noun. I think that first definition is a bold statement because with the amount of information we have of the universe as it stands today, which is relatively small, but it's way more than it was even 10, 20 years ago, it's almost a fact that there is some level of life out there in the universe that is not human, not here on Earth, and very likely intelligent life, similar to humans. Even if it's 0.0001% of the planets that are out there, we know, give or take, how many planets and how many solar systems and how many galaxies are out there. There almost has to be life. I think about this a lot. I'm fascinated by the universe, by the cosmos. I've mentioned this before. And there's 100 billion, give or take, stars in our galaxy. There's 100 billion, give or take, galaxies in the visible universe in our sky. Who knows how many more past that we can't even see. And if each one of those has about 100 billion stars and possibly, one or two at least planets around each of those, how can there not be life on even just one of them? How can we be so self-centered that we think we are the only ones? It sort of boggles my mind from a scientific standpoint. But we tend to do that. We started off thinking that the Earth was the center of the universe, and then we realized the universe was bigger than just our little solar system. And then we realized that it's actually the sun in the center of our solar system, and we're in a galaxy, and we're in a universe, and we're part of such a much bigger thing. Anyway, I'll stop talking about that. Next, we have anthropogenic. This is an adjective from 1923 of relating to or resulting from the influence of human beings on nature, as in anthropogenic pollutants. Anthropogenically is an adverb. Next, we have anthropoid. This is a noun from 1832. 1. Any of a suborder of higher primates as macaques and marmosets, especially the 1b definition for the word ape, APE. 2. A person resembling an ape, as in the howling anthropoids of the hookworm belt, and that is from H.L. Mencken. Anthropoid is also an adjective. This is from the Greek anthropoides, which means resembling a human. Next we have anthropoid, ape, two separate words. It's a noun from circa 1837, and again we have the 1b definition for ape. Next we have anthropology. It's a noun from 1593. 1. The science of human beings, especially the study of human beings and their ancestors through time and space and in relation to physical character, environmental and social relations and culture. 2. Theology dealing with the origin, nature, and destiny of human beings. Anthropological is an adjective, anthropologically is an adverb, and anthropologist is a noun. Next we have anthropometry. It's a noun from circa 1839, the study of human body measurements, especially on a comparative basis. Anthropometric is an adjective. Next we have anthropomorph. This is a noun from 1894, a stylized human figure as in prehistoric art. Next we have anthropomorphic. It's an adjective from 1827. 1. Described or thought of as having a human form or human attributes, as in anthropomorphic deities. 2. Ascribing human characteristics to non-human things, as in anthropomorphic supernaturalism. And for that definition, I usually think of anthropomorphizing animals usually. And again, I'll mention creature comforts. We sort of see these animals and inanimate objects as well. We look at them and we can sort of see sort of what they would be like if they were a human. We put sort of a human face on them and we can make up a personality to them. So that's anthropomorphizing, or in this case, anthropomorphic. And anthropomorphically is an adverb. Anthropomorphism is a noun. Next we have anthropomorphism. This is a noun from 1753, an interpretation of what is not human or personal in terms of human or personal characteristics. Synonym is humanization. An anthropomorphist is a noun. Next is anthropomorphize. This is a verb from 1845. The transitive definition is to attribute human form or personality to. The intransitive definition is to attribute human form or personality to things not human. And this is definitely a better word and definitions for what I was talking about before when we anthropomorphize animals and inanimate objects. And anthropomorphization is a noun. Next we have anthropopathism. I think that's how it's pronounced. anthropopathism. This is a noun from 1847. The ascription of human feelings to something not human. This is from the Greek anthropopathia, which means humanity. It's from the Greek anthropopathes, which means having human feelings, and that is from anthrop plus pathos, which means experience, and there's more at the word pathos or pathos. Next we have anthropophagus. This is an adjective from circa 1828. Feeding on human flesh. Ooh, fun. Anthropophagy is a noun. Next we have anthropophagus. So the first one was G-O-U-S at the end, and this one is G-U-S at the end. This is a noun from 1552. It's definitely related. So the first one actually was an adjective, and this is a noun, so that's where the difference comes in. We just have the synonyms man-eater and cannibal. Next we have anthroposophy. Anthro, P-O-S-O-P-H-Y. This is a noun from 1916, A 20th century religious system growing out of theosophy and centering on human development. Anthroposophist is a noun. Next we have anthurium, anthurium. This is a noun from circa 1839, any of a genus of tropical American plants of the arum family, arum, with large, often brightly colored leaves, a cylindrical spadix or spadix, and a colored spathe. Spadix is S-P-A-D-I-X, and spathe is S-P-A-T-H-E, two words I'm not familiar with. The etymology says this is from the Greek anthos, which means flower, plus ura, O-U-R-A, which means tail, and there's more at the words anthology and ass, A-S-S. Next we have anti, A-N-T-I. It's the first form of three, and it looks like these will be the last for this episode. This is a noun from 1788, one that is opposed. Now we have the second form of anti. This is an adjective from 1857, and it just has the synonym opposed. And here we go with the third form of anti. It's a preposition from 1953, opposed to, and the synonym is against. I am going to go ahead and pick the word anthropomorphize as the word of the episode. It's probably the one that I talked the most about in terms of my personal feelings, other than maybe anthropocentric. But I think it's interesting when we do this either consciously or unconsciously. All right, that will be the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. This is the podcast that I do. I hope you are in the correct class. This is going to be a different sort of episode because mostly I will be just reading words to you. There's going to be very little in terms of actual definitions. So the only actual word that we will be defining in this episode is anti as a prefix. 1a, of the same kind, but situated opposite, exerting energy in the opposite direction or pursuing an opposite policy, as in anticlinical or anti-clinical. I think either one, anti or anti, those are both good. 1b, one that is opposite in kind to, as in anticlimax. 2a, opposing or hostile to in opinion, sympathy, or practice, as in anti-Semite. 2b, opposing in effect or activity, as in antacid, and in that case, they have dropped the I. 3, serving to prevent, cure, or alleviate, as in anti-anxiety. 4, combating or defending against, as in anti-aircraft or anti-missile. And now begins the very weird part of the episode. I would not blame you for turning this episode off right now because I've already recorded it and boy, it takes a long time. It's literally just a list of words that start with the prefix anti. They do not have their own entry in the dictionary, so it's really just a list of examples of words that you can put anti in front of. Here we go. Anti-academic, anti-acne, anti-administration, anti-aggression, anti-aging, anti-AIDS, anti-alcohol, anti-alcoholism, anti-alien, anti-allergenic, anti-allergy, anti-anemia, anti-apartheid, anti-aphrodisiac, anti-Arab, anti-aristocratic, anti-armor, anti-arthritic, anti-arthritis, anti-Asian, anti-assimilation, anti-asthma, anti-authoritarian, anti-authoritarianism, anti-authority, anti-auxin, that's A-U-X-I-N, anti-backlash, antibacterial, anti-bias, anti-billboard. Who's anti-billboards? Anti-Bolshevik, anti-boss, anti-bourgeois, anti-boycott. That seems a little redundant, opposite? I'm not sure. anti-British. And I should have said these before, but it's hard to see these ones where they're sort of anti-culture of some kind. Anti-bug, anti-bureaucratic, anti-burglar, anti-burglary, anti-caking, anti-capitalism, anti-capitalist, anti-carcinogen, anti-carcinogenic, anti-caries, anti-Catholic, anti-Catholicism, anti-cellulite. Who's pro-cellulite? Anti-censorship, anti-cholesterol, anti-Christian, anti-Christianity, anti-church, anti-cigarette, anti-city, anti-classical, anti-cling, anti-clotting, anti-cold, anti-collision, anti-colonial, anti-colonialism, anti-colonialist, anti-commercial, anti-commercialism, anti-communism, anti-communist, anti-conglomerate, anti-conservation, anti-conservationist, anti-consumer, anti-conventional, anti-corporate, anti-corrosion, anti-corrosive, anti-corruption, anti-counterfeiting, anti-crack, anti-creative, anti-crime, anti-cruelty, anti-cult, anti-cultural, anti-dandruff. All right, I'm getting sick of saying anti, so I'm just going to read the words and skip the anti part. You can just sort of assume that it's there. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. Darwinian, Darwinism, defamation, depression, desegregation, desertification, desiccant, development, diabetic, diarrheal, dilution, discrimination, dogmatic, draft, economic, educational, egalitarian, elite, elitism, elitist, emetic, English, entropic, environmental, epilepsy, epileptic, erotic, essentialist, establishment, estrogen, evolution, evolutionary, evolutionism, evolutionist, family, fascism, fascist, fashion, fashionable, fatigue, female, feminine, feminism, feminist, filibuster, flu, foam, foaming, fogging, foreign, foreigner, formalist, fraud, French, friction, fur, gambling, gang, gay, German, glare, globalization, government, growth, guerrilla, that's the Guerrilla spelling, gun, harassment, herpes, hierarchical, hijacking, historical, HIV, homosexual, humanism, humanist, humanistic, humanitarian, hunger, hunter, hunting, hysteric, icing. Is that the icing on a cake? Ideological, immigrant, immigration, imperialism, imperialist, incumbent, infective, inflammation, inflation, inflationary, institutional, integration, intrusion, Irish, Italian, jam, jamming, Japanese, Jewish, Judaism, kickback, knock, labor, leak, leprosy, liberal, liberalism, libertarian, literary, literate, litter, littering, logical, lynching, macho, malaria, male, man, management, marijuana, market, materialism, materialist, mechanist, merger, metabolic, metaphysical, militarism, militarist, militaristic, military, mine, miscegenation. I'm not sure of that word. miscegenation. Missile, modern, modernism, modernist, monarchical, monarchist, monopolist, monopoly, mosquito, musical, narcotics, narrative, national, nationalist, natural, nature, nausea, Nazi, Negro, nepotism, noise, obesity, obscenity, organization, papal, parasitic, party, pesticide, piracy, plague, plaque, platelet, pleasure, poaching, police, political, politics, popular, porn, pornographic, pornography, pot, poverty, predator, press, profiteering, progressive, prostitution, pruritic, rabies, rachitic, rachitic, racism, racist, racketeering, radar, radical, radicalism, rape, rational, rationalism, rationalist, rationality, realism, realist, recession, recessionary, red. Are people just against the color red? Reductionism, reductionist, reflection, reflective, reform, regulatory, religion, religious, republican, revolutionary, riot, ritualism, rock, roll. I'm surprised they don't have rock and roll. Romantic, romanticism, royalist, Russian, rust, satellite, schizophrenia, schizophrenic, science. Ooh, that's a problem. Scientific, secrecy, segregation, seizure, sentimental, separatist, sex, sexist, sexual, sexuality, shark, ship, shock, shoplifting, skid, slavery, sleep, slip, smog, smoke, smoker, smoking, smuggling, smut, snob, socialist, sodomy, Soviet, Sovietism, spam, speculation, speculative, spending, Stalinist, state, statist, stick, stress, strike, student, submarine, subsidy, subversion, subversive, suicide, syphilitic, takeover, tank, tarnish, tax, technological, technology, terrorism, terrorist, theft, theoretical, tobacco, totalitarian, traditional, tubercular, tuberculosis, tuberculous, tumor, tumoral, typhoid, ulcer, unemployment, union, university, urban, violence, viral, virus, vivisection, vivisectionist, war, wear, wear, welfare, west, western, wailing, woman, wrinkle, Zionism, and Zionist. That was a very long list of words. If you've gotten this far, I am impressed. You are in it for sure. You are a real, true word nerd. So thank you very much for listening. I'm not even going to pick a word of the episode because there's really only one word, and it's a prefix, and it's anti or anti. Thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. I am your host, Spencer, as usual. I haven't changed. I haven't had any guest readers for a while, so I think I'm going to need to figure out if I can schedule somebody for that soon. All right, we are at the top of page 54. Oh, by the way, how did you like that last episode? That was a doozy. First, for this episode is anti-abortion, all one word, antiabortion. This is an adjective from 1866, opposed to abortion and especially to the legalization of abortion, as in anti-abortion lobbyists. Anti-abortionist is a noun. And I'm not going to go into this too much, but I'm just going to say that I am anti-abortion. Next we have anti-air, all one word, antiair. This is an adjective from 1915, and we have the synonym anti-aircraft. which is our next word. It's all one word. It's the first form of two. It's an adjective from 1913, designed for or concerned with defense against air attack. Now we have the second form of anti-aircraft. It's a noun from 1926, anti-aircraft guns or their fire. Next we have anti-aliasing, all one word. It's a noun from 1981. I sounded way too excited for the word anti-aliasing. A procedure in computer graphics for smoothing lines and removing visual distortions. This is from the word alias, which is spurious frequency generated during digital processing of a signal. And then, of course, it's the opposite of that, anti-aliasing. Next, we have anti-American. There's a hyphen in the middle. This is an adjective from 1765, opposed or hostile to the people or the government policies of the U.S. Anti-Americanism is a noun. And I think it's interesting that this word was coined, 9 years before we were officially a country. Next, we have anti-anxiety, all one word. Adjective from 1962, tending to prevent or relieve anxiety, as in anti-anxiety drugs. Anti-arrhythmic is our next word. It's all one word. It's an adjective from 1954, tending to prevent or relieve cardiac arrhythmia, as in an anti-arrhythmic agent. Next, we have anti-art. There's a hyphen. It's a noun from 1937. Art based on premises antithetical to traditional or popular art forms, specifically the synonym Dada, D-A-D-A. That is a form of art. I'm not super familiar with the details of what it is, but if you compare it to this word, anti-art, I think that gives you at least a starting point of a good idea of what that is. Next, we have anti-ballistic missile. Anti-ballistic is one word. Missile is another word. It's a noun from circa 1957. A missile for intercepting and destroying ballistic missiles. I was just listening to the Star Talk Radio podcast with our good friend Neil deGrasse Tyson. I wish he were my friend. That'd be cool. But he was playing some clips from when he was visiting this U.S. military base in Greenland. And what they do is they track all the satellites that are going around the world. They said that they're kind of traffic control for all the satellites, making sure that they don't hit anything. Sometimes they'll have the International Space Station adjust their course slightly if they think they're going to hit something. But another thing that they do is that they are there to see if any country shoots off missiles. I think specifically ballistic missiles, but probably other missiles as well. And I learned from listening to this that ballistic missiles are ones that are using gravity. I think they shoot them off, but then they use gravity to get to their location. But they can still pinpoint their location very well. The good news is no missiles have ever been shot off. This is specifically nuclear missiles. And so this is just funny that this is just coming up. I listened to this podcast 1 or 2 days ago, and they were talking about, if something does go off, that they are working on the ability to shoot anti-ballistic missiles, but it's very, very hard. I don't think they've ever really had a practical case where they've had to use this, obviously, but they are working on it. So theoretically, anti-ballistic missiles exist. Enough about that. Let's move on to antibiosis. All one word. It's a noun from 1889. Antagonistic association between organisms to the detriment of one of them or between one organism and a metabolic product of another. Next, we have antibiotic. First form of two. This is an adjective from 1891. 1. Tending to prevent, inhibit, or destroy life. 2. Of or relating to antibiotics or to antibiosis. Antibiotically is an adverb. Now we have the second form of antibiotic. It's a noun from 1943. A substance produced by or a semi-synthetic substance derived from a microorganism and able in dilute solution to inhibit or kill another microorganism. Next we have anti-black. It's all one word. Oh, this is interesting. It's an adjective from 1836, opposed or hostile to black people. Yeah, I guess the idea is out there. People like that exist. It makes me very depressed, but it's still something that exists, and it, I guess, requires its own entry in the dictionary. So there you have it. Next, we have antibody, all one word. This is a noun from 1894. Any of a large number of proteins of high molecular weight that are produced normally by specialized B cells after stimulation by an antigen and act specifically against the antigen in an immune response that are produced abnormally by some cancer cells, and that typically consist of 4 subunits, including 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains, called also immunoglobulin. And if you know anything about me, and if you've listened to past episodes, you could probably guess that I like saying the word immunoglobulin. But I said it weird there. Next, we have anti-bonding, all one word. It's an adjective from 1936, tending to inhibit bonding between atoms, as in anti-bonding orbitals, also as in an anti-bonding electron. I think we will do one more for this episode. It is anti-business, all one word. This is an adjective from 1858, antagonistic toward business and especially big business. That is it for the definitions for this episode, and now I am going to pick a word of the episode, and I'm going to pick anti-art because I think the idea of art being anti-art is just kind of weird and interesting and fascinating, so I may look more into that. I like art. I don't really know a lot about art, but I like art of all different forms, so that's an interesting concept to me. All right, that's the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to a very, very special episode of the dictionary. Today, the day that this is being released, I have no idea when you are listening to it, but the day it is released is my birthday. That's it. Nothing else fancy about it. But yeah, today's my birthday. So go celebrate for me. Go eat some food. Go have a drink. Go be kind to people. Help somebody out. That is what I want for my birthday. So let's get to the words. By the way, I did not plan this specific section of this page to be on my birthday. So they're just it's just a normal episode. First is anti-busing. ANTIBUSING, all one word. It's an adjective from 1964, opposed to the busing of school children, as in anti-busing parents, also as in anti-busing campaign. Next we have antic, ANTIC. It's the first form of 2. It's a noun from 1529. 1. An attention drawing, often wildly playful or funny act or action. Synonym is caper, as in childish antics. 2 is archaic, a performer of a grotesque or ludicrous part. Synonym is buffoon. This is from the Italian word antico, which means ancient thing or person, and that is from antico, which means ancient. But although you just told me that, why are you telling me again? Which is from the Latin antiquus. I pronounce that horribly. ANTIQUUS. And there's more at the word antique. Now we have the second form of antic. It's an adjective from 1548. 1 is archaic. We have the synonyms grotesque and bizarre. 2a. Characterized by clownish extravagance or absurdity. 2b. Whimsically gay. Synonym is frolicsome. And in this case, the word gay, I'm guessing, means the kind of older way it was defined, which is more like happy. And so that, I think, is what this is saying. And antically, antically, is an adverb. Next, we have anti-cancer, all one word. This is an adjective from 1847, used against or tending to arrest or prevent cancer, as in anti-cancer drugs, anti-cancer activity, or anti-cancer effects. And I would define myself as someone who is anti-cancer. Next, we have anti-choice. This is an adjective from 1978. We have the synonym anti-abortion, which was our first word of the last episode. Anti-choicer is a noun, and again, I am anti-choice. Next, we have anticholinergic, anticholinergic. This is an adjective from 1942, opposing or blocking the physiologic action of acetylcholine. And anticholinergic is also a noun. Next, we have a fun word to say. Let's see if I can do it. Anticholinesterase. Yep, I think that's what it is. Anticholinesterase. It's a noun from 1942. A substance as neostigmine that inhibits a cholinesterase by combination with it. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Next, we have Antichrist, all one word with a capital A. This is a noun from before the 12th century. One who denies or opposes Christ, specifically, a great antagonist expected to fill the world with wickedness, but to be conquered forever by Christ at his second coming. 2. A false Christ. Would the devil be considered Antichrist, or vice versa? Or is Antichrist considered something different than the devil? I'm not 100% sure on that. I would assume the devil would be considered Antichrist, but I don't know. I didn't read the Bible. I'm not religious, so I'm coming into this kind of blank. Next, we have anticipant. This is an adjective from 1626. Synonyms are expectant and anticipating, used usually with the word of. Anticipant is also a noun. Now we have a similar word. It is anticipate. This is a verb from 1532. Transitive definitions are first. 1. To give advanced thought, discussion, or treatment to. 2. To meet an obligation before a due date. And my brain noticed that there were 3 utterances of the word to. The last word of the first definition, the number 2, and then the first word of the number 2 definition. Sometimes I notice weird things like that. Moving on. 3. To foresee and deal with in advance. Synonym is forestall. Forestall. 4. To use or expend in advance of actual possession. 5. To act before, in parentheses it says another, often so as to check or counter. 6. To look forward to as certain. Synonym is expect. The intransitive definition is to speak or write in knowledge or expectation of later matter. Synonyms for the whole word are foresee and prevent. Anticipatable is an adjective, and anticipator is a noun. Next, we have anticipation. This is a noun from the 14th century. This just reminded me of a line in, I don't remember which song it is, but it's a song in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The way that it's said, the word anticipation is done with anticipation. There's a hesitation before it, and it's just performed very well by the incomparable Tim Curry. All right, let's get to the definitions for anticipation. 1A, a prior action that takes into account or forestalls a later action. 1B, the act of looking forward, especially pleasurable expectation. 2. The use of money before it is available. 3a. Visualization of a future event or state. 3b. An object or form that anticipates a later type. 4. The early sounding of one or more tones of a succeeding chord to form a temporary dissonance compared to the word suspension. And a synonym for all definitions is the word prospect. Next, we have anticipatory. It's an adjective from 1669, characterized by anticipation. And a synonym is anticipating, as in, took anticipatory measures to prevent floods. Now we have anti-clerical, all one word. It's an adjective from 1759, opposed to clericalism or to the interference or influence of the clergy in secular affairs. Anti-clerical is also a noun, and anti-clericalism is a noun. Next we have anticlimactic. This is an adjective from 1831 of relating to or marked by anticlimax. Anticlimactically is an adverb. Now we have anticlimax. This is a noun from 1696. 1. The usually sudden transition in discourse from a significant idea to a trivial or ludicrous idea. Also, an instance of this transition. 2. An event, period, or outcome that is strikingly less important or dramatic than expected. Next, we have anticlinical. It's an adjective from 1879, occurring at right angles to the surface or circumference of a plant organ, as in an anticlinical pattern of cell walls. This is from adding anti to the Greek word klinein, K-L-I-N-E-I-N, which means to lean, L-E-A-N, and there's more at the word lean. Next and last word for this episode is anticline. It's a noun from 1845, an arch of stratified rock in which the layers bend downward in opposite direction from the crest. And it says compare to the word syncline, S-Y-N-C-L-I-N-E. And there is a little black and white drawing of a cross-section of strata showing anticline. And so there's rock layers that are going sort of up towards the surface of the ground, and then it basically makes a 90-degree turn, and it goes back down away from the ground at a sort of similar angle. I'm guessing something like that is created by either just the normal motion of the tectonic plates moving things around, or also I'm guessing earthquakes or volcanoes could cause something like that. All right, what will be the word of the episode? I'm going to pick antic for the word of the episode, just because I liked that first definition. An attention-drawing, often wildly playful or funny act or action. I just think that those are funny, and I'm trying to be a little bit more loose in the way that I am and being silly and things like that, so I like antics. All right, that is the end of the episode. I'm going to go wish myself a happy birthday, and you should go too. Again, please celebrate by being a good person, going to help somebody in any way that you can. That is what I want people to do, to be less selfish, more compassionate, more empathetic, more loving, and we don't have enough of it in this world. All right, thank you for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this brand new episode of the dictionary. So this episode is equally as special as the last episode because the day that this is being released is actually my wife's birthday. Yes, we celebrate our birthdays one day apart, which personally I really love because it's never one-sided at one point of the year and then one-sided to the other person the other part of the year. We get to do things and celebrate together. We've gone on trips around this time of year. This year, instead of going on a vacation, we are actually doing a staycation because there's a lot of things in the Chicago area that we don't usually get to do, so we are taking advantage of some time off and doing those things. All right, let's get to the words. First is anti-clockwise. Yes, we are still in the anti-words. This is one word. It's an adjective or adverb from 1879. It is chiefly British for the synonym that we are used to saying, counterclockwise. Next, we have anticoagulant. This is a noun from 1886, a substance that hinders the clotting of blood. Synonym is blood thinner. Anticoagulant is also an adjective. Next, we have anticodon. I think that's how it's pronounced. Anticodon. This is a noun from 1965, a triplet of nucleotide bases in transfer RNA that identifies the amino acid carried and binds to a complementary codon in messenger RNA during protein synthesis at a ribosome. Next, we have anti-competitive. This is an adjective from 1854, tending to reduce or discourage competition. This series of words that start with anti, or at least most of them, are interesting because it's interesting to me to see things that people are against. I read a whole list of them a few episodes ago, but these are ones that I guess are big enough that they require their own separate entry in the dictionary. And so there's been a few that are frustrating for me to see, but then there's ones that are sort of interesting or odd, like anti-competitive. I want to meet somebody who is extremely anti-competitive and see what their reasons are. Next, we have anticonvulsant. Could also be anticonvulsive. It's an adjective from 1733, used or tending to control or to prevent convulsions, as in epilepsy. Anticonvulsant and anticonvulsive are also nouns. Next, we have anticyclone. It's a noun from 1862. I think the Wicked Witch of the East is anticyclone. 1. A system of winds that rotates about a center of high atmosphere pressure clockwise in the northern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the southern, that usually advances at 20 to 30 miles, about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, and that usually has a diameter of 1,500 to 2,500 miles, 2,400 to 4,000 kilometers. Number 2, we have the 2 definition for the word high, H-I-G-H. Anticyclonic is an adjective. Next, we have antidepressant. It's an adjective from 1961, used or tending to relieve or prevent psychic depression. Now we have the second form of antidepressant. It's a noun from 1962, an antidepressant drug. Compare to tricyclic antidepressant. So when we get to the T's, we will get to that word. Next, we have antiderivative. This is a noun from 1887. We have the synonym indefinite integral. That seems like something that's math related. Next, we have antidiuretic hormone. Hormone is its own separate word. This is a noun from 1942. We have the synonym vasopressin. V-A-S-O-P-R-E-S-S-I-N. Next is antidotal. A-N-T-I-D-O-T-A-L. It's an adjective from 1646 of relating to or acting as an antidote. Antidotally is an adverb. And here we have antidote. It's a noun from the 15th century. 1. A remedy to counteract the effects of poison. 2. Something that relieves, prevents, or counteracts, as in an antidote to the mechanization of our society. Antidote is also a transitive verb. This is from the Greek antidotos, which means given as an antidote, and that is from antididonai, which means to give as an antidote, and that is from didonai, which means to give, and there's more at the word date, D-A-T-E. Next, we have antidromic, A-N-T-I-D-R-O-M-I-C. This is an adjective from 1895, proceeding or conducting in a direction opposite to the usual one, used especially of a nerve impulse or fiber. Antidromically is an adverb. This is from taking anti plus the Greek word dromos, which means race course or running, and there's more at the word dromedary. Next we have anti-drug, all one word. This is an adjective from 1906, acting against or opposing illicit drugs or their use, as in anti-drug activists or an anti-drug program. Next we have anti-dumping. This is an adjective from 1894, designed to discourage the importation and sale of foreign goods at prices well below domestic prices, as in anti-dumping tariffs. Next, we have anti-electron. This is a noun from 1931. We have the synonym positron. Next and last word for this episode is anti-federalist. There is a hyphen. This is a noun, often capitalized, from 1787, a person who opposed the adoption of the U.S. Constitution. That is it for the words. The word I'm picking is anti-clockwise, just because I think it's interesting that the Brits, those people in the UK, have a different word than we do for counterclockwise. So that's the end of the episode. Again, happy birthday to my wife. Today, maybe we will, go into the city, go to a museum, something like that. Go enjoy the day. Hopefully the weather is nice. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to a new episode of the dictionary. First word for this episode is antiferromagnetic. Yeah, that's all one word. ANTIFERROMAGNETIC. This is an adjective from 1936. We have the synonym ferromagnetic. Antiferromagnet is a noun. Antiferromagnetically is an adverb. And antiferromagnetism is a noun and a long, fun word to say. Next, we have anti-fertility. This is an adjective from 1953, capable of or tending to reduce or destroy fertility. Synonym is contraceptive, as in anti-fertility agents. Next, we have anti-fluoridationist. That is a funky word. It's a noun from 1953, a person opposed to the fluoridation of public water supplies. Next, we have anti-fouling. Fouling. This is an adjective from 1855, intended to prevent fouling of underwater structures as the bottoms of ships, as in anti-fouling paint. I don't really know what fouling means in context with the bottoms of ships. Maybe it's denting or breaking or something. So there's a special kind of anti-fouling paint, it seems like, that maybe makes the structure stronger. I don't know. Let's look into it. Next, we have antifreeze, or actually, would you call it antifreeze? That's not what the pronunciation guide is telling me, but that's how I say it, antifreeze. This is a noun from 1903. 1. A substance added to a liquid, as the water in an automobile engine, to lower its freezing point. Because, depending on where you live, and most of us in the U.S. live in places where it does hit freezing, you do not want the water to freeze. I live in the Chicago area, and it always gets below 32. Especially when you factor in the wind chill. I think last year or the year before that, it was like negative 20 with a wind chill. It was ridiculous. So yeah, you need some antifreeze in there so your water doesn't freeze. then your car won't work, and that would be bad. How are you going to get to work? How are you going to get to school? How are you going to get to the store? Number 2, any of various substances as proteins or alcohols that are found in some living organisms as certain fish and insects and serve to lower the freezing point of body fluids, especially by limiting ice crystal growth. Interesting. Next we have antifungal. This is an adjective from 1945, destroying fungi or inhibiting their growth. Synonyms are fungicidal or fungistatic. And I think I'm pronouncing those correctly. Antifungal is also a noun. Next we have antigen. It's Gen at the end. This is a noun from 1908. Any substance, as in immunogen or a hapgen, foreign to the body that evokes an immune response either alone or after forming a complex with a larger molecule as a protein, and that is capable of binding with a product as an antibody or T cell of the immune response. Antigenic is an adjective, antigenically is an adverb, and antigenicity is a noun. Next we have antigenic determinant. That is 2 separate words. It's a noun from 1950, and we have the synonym epitope, E-P-I-T-O-P-E. Next we have antigen-presenting cell. Cell is its own word, and antigen-presenting has a hyphen. This is a noun from 1975. Any of various cells, as a microphage or a B cell, that take up an antigen and process it into a form recognized by and serving to activate a specific helper T cell. Next we have antiglobulin. This is a noun from 1902, an antibody that combines with and precipitates globulin. Next we have Antigone with a capital A. This is a noun from 1570. A daughter of Oedipus and Jocasta, who buries her brother, I'll just say her brother's body, against the order of her uncle Creon. Her brother is Polynices. Polynices? Could it be pronounced that way? I don't know. And Jocasta is spelled Jocasta. I'm not familiar with that one, so I didn't know if I pronounced it correctly, but I'm pretty sure Oedipus is correct. Next, we have anti-gravity, all one word, and it is the first form of 2. This is an adjective from 1944, reducing, canceling, or protecting against the effect of gravity. Second form of anti-gravity or anti-gravity, it's a noun from 1949, a hypothetical effect resulting from cancellation or reduction of a gravitational field. When I was young, pretty young, I thought that there was a way to turn off gravity. I told my sister and my dad, I have a vague memory of talking to the two of them about it, and was like, yeah, I've seen in cartoons and stuff, they'll flip a switch and then gravity will be turned off so we can float around and stuff. Why can't we do that? And they were like, you're stupid. That's not how gravity works. No, of course, children aren't stupid when they're young. They just don't understand the concept of certain things yet. And so that was my first lesson in gravity. Actually, I probably had a first lesson in gravity when I fell at some point before that. But in a very conscious way, that was my first lesson. So if there's any kids out there who are listening who also thought that you could turn off gravity by flipping a switch, no, you're wrong. You're not stupid, but you're wrong. Gravity is a little bit more complicated than that. Actually, it's a lot simpler than that. That would be very complicated to have a switch. I still really want a switch to turn off gravity so I could float around. All right, moving on. Antihemophilic factor. Antihemophilic is one word. Factor is another word. And let's spell it. Antihemophilic. This is a noun from 1947. We have, this is interesting. The synonym factor, Factor, with some Roman numerals after it. They are VIII, which is the number 8. So the synonym is factor 8. I don't know why it has Roman numerals, but I'm sure when we get to the word factor, we'll find out. Next, we have anti-hero or anti-hero, all one word. This is a noun from 1714, a protagonist or notable figure who is conspicuously lacking in heroic qualities. Anti-heroic is an adjective. Next, we have anti-heroine. I'm guessing it's similar. This is a noun from 1823, a female anti-hero. Next, we have antihistamine. This is a noun from 1933, any of various compounds that counteract histamine in the body and that are used for treating allergic reactions as hay fever and cold symptoms. Antihistamine is also an adjective, and antihistaminic is an adjective or a noun. Next, we have antihormone. It's a noun from 1908, a substance, as tamoxifen, that blocks the action or inhibits the production of a hormone. Next, we have anti-human. It's an adjective from 1738, one, acting or being against humanity. That is an interesting concept. 2, reacting strongly with human antigens, as in anti-human antibodies. Next is antihypertensive. It's a noun from 1941, a substance that is effective against high blood pressure. And antihypertensive is also an adjective. Next and last word for this episode is anti-idiotype, or actually anti-idiotype. There is a hyphen. It is spelled ANTI-IDIOTYPE. It's a noun from 1973, an antibody that binds to the antigen combining site of another antibody, either suppressing or enhancing the immune response. Anti-idiotypic is an adjective. I think I'm going to pick the word anti-human for the word of the episode because I think the concept of that number one definition is interesting, something that I feel like I want to look more into to see if anybody has ever written anything about being anti-human and what they have to say. I think it's just an interesting idea. All right, that's the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. Glad you could join us. Thank you very, very much. Let's see, just a day or two ago, this podcast hit 5,000 downloads. That's not incredibly impressive considering that at the time of this recording, it has just under 200 episodes posted. But hey, it's something. It's a big round number. So let's see if we can hit 10,000 in less than that same amount of time. That was a weird sentence. All right, let's get to the words. First is anti-inflammatory. There is a hyphen after anti. This is an adjective from 1736, counteracting inflammation. Anti-inflammatory is also a noun. Next we have anti-intellectual. Again, there's a hyphen after anti. This is an adjective from 1821, opposing or hostile to intellectuals or to an intellectual view or approach. You gotta really wonder why somebody would choose to be anti-intellectual. That's an interesting one there. Anti-intellectual is also a noun. Anti-intellectualism is also a noun. Now we have anti-leukemic. ANTILEUKEMIC. Adjective from 1905, counteracting the effects of leukemia. That's a good thing to have around. Next, we have anti-life, all one word. It's an adjective from 1929, antagonistic or antithetical to life or to normal human values. Next, we have anti-lock. This is an adjective from 1963. being a braking system designed to keep a vehicle's wheels from locking by electronically controlled pulsed application of the brake for each wheel. Next we have anti-log, L-O-G. It's all one word. It's a noun from 1910, and we have the synonym anti-logarithm, which, as you may have been able to predict, is our next word. Let's see, this is a noun from 1618, the number corresponding to a given logarithm. Next we have antimacasar. I think that is how it's pronounced, antimacasar, antimacasar, something like that. This is a noun from 1844, a cover to protect the back or arms of furniture. This is made by combining, obviously, anti plus macassar, and it says oil in parentheses after the word macassar, and then again in parentheses it says a hairdressing. So I should probably look up what macassar is. I'm not really sure, but I guess anti-macassar is a cover to protect the back or arms of furniture. Next we have anti-magnetic. It's an adjective from 1883. In parentheses, it says of a watch. Having a balance unit composed of alloys that will not remain magnetized. Next we have anti-malarial. It's an adjective from 1843, serving to prevent, control, or cure malaria. Anti-malarial is also a noun. This is another one of those things that we are really glad exists. Next we have antimatter. M-A-T-T-E-R. It's a noun from 1950, matter composed of antiparticles or antiparticles. This is an interesting one. If I remember correctly hearing about this stuff, which I think technically does exist or can exist, the only problem is, what do you hold it in? This is something Neil deGrasse Tyson brings up every once in a while. It cannot come in contact with matter, because if it does, there will be problems. And all of the things that we have that are containers to hold things are made of matter. So how do you put antimatter into a thing that is made of matter? Next, we have antimetabolite. It's a noun from 1945, a substance that replaces or inhibits an organism's utilization of a metabolite. Next is antimicrobial. It's an adjective from 1891, destroying or inhibiting the growth of microorganisms and especially pathogenic microorganisms. It is also a noun. Next we have antimitotic. A-N-T-I-M-I-T-O-T-I-C. By the way, as I've sort of mentioned in the past, a lot of these could be anti or anti. I don't always look at the pronunciation guide. I just assume that you are aware that I am aware that it could be either. And honestly, a lot of them, I think, say that both are totally fine to say. All right, so antimitotic is an adjective from 1948, inhibiting or disrupting mitosis, as in antimitotic agents or antimitotic activity. And no, mitosis is not talking about mitose, it's something else. Antimitotic is also a noun. Next we have antimonial, A-N-T-I-M-O-N-I-A-L. This is an adjective from 1605 of relating to or containing antimony. It's also a noun. Next we have antimonide, A-N-T-I-M-O-N-I-D-E. This is a noun from 1825, a binary compound of antimony with a more electropositive element. And in the previous word, I might have said antimony, but here I said antimony. I don't know which it is, but it is our next word, so let's learn together. It is antimony. Yep, A-N-T-I-M-O-N-Y. This is a noun from the 15th century. I think this is the first word we've had all episode that has more than one definition. And we will say that this is our last word for the episode. One just has the synonym stibnite, Stibnite. I have no clue what that is. Number 2, a trivalent and pentavalent metalloid element that is commonly metallic silvery white, crystalline, and brittle, and that is used especially in alloys, semiconductors, and flame retardant substances. And then it tells me to see the element table. The word of the episode is going to be antimatter, because I think the concept of that is pretty interesting. So that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer reading the dictionary. Goodbye.